Okay, I think we are live.
Amazing.
Yes. So we just give it a moment because I know people might still be joining.
Hmm.
Um, okay, just let me just confirm from the team if we're live. Are we live? Okay, we're on time. 7
Nice.
p.m. on the dot. Perfect timing.
Amazing.
Okay. I think I'm just going to give it maybe 2 minutes,
Hmm.
1 minute, and we could just keep it off. But I'm really excited.
Same
And
here.
what's the weather like right now in England?
It's hot. It's hot.
It's
I think
hot.
they're expecting a heat wave this week. So yeah,
My
fans
God.
are on, windows are open. It's
Oh
very
my
hot. I
gosh.
really shouldn't. There's nothing to complain about because I really do
Yes.
want a warm summer, but it's a lot.
I feel like I think with England as well, the weather is always up and
Touch
down.
and go. There was a
Yes.
rainstorm yesterday. There was a heavy
What?
rainstorm yesterday, and
It's
it's
so hot.
boiling hot. But
Oh
you know
my
what? I'll take what I can get. So I'm
I
happy
know.
with this. I'm happy with this.
Okay. Welcome everybody. Welcome, wherever you're connected from right now. I'm so excited to have you. My name is Nana, and I am the founder of Heard in Africa and also behind this conversation. Welcome right now to the speaker economy. The speaker economy. So, right here, we have different conversations about, you know, the speaking industry in Africa. And so we bring in event or conference producers, um, s- conference conveners, event conveners, people like Olayide on the call. Like, don't worry, I have so much to say about her. So let's just warm you up. Just make sure that you're tuned in, you're seated, you're calm, and we're going to have a great time this evening, not afternoon, evening where I am, right? Okay, yeah. So that's the thing about connecting virtually, right? Because right now it's evening, and then it's evening right now for Olayide right now. But
Hmm.
I don't know what time it is for you, but whatever time it is, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Okay, so before I introduce Olayide officially, I want to start with something little different, right? I want to know for anyone out there, what's your dream stage, right? What stage do you have you ever dreamt of speaking on? So let me know in the comment section. I'll wait for you. I'll just wait for you on that. I know my own dream stage. I know where I would want to speak at if I was going to speak. Okay. Okay. So we are live. Just got confirmation that we are live. Just hold on. Um, okay. So what's your dream stage? I know my dream stage. If you're just joining in, or if you don't even know, you probably just stumbled onto this live session and you're wondering what's going on here. What is two beautiful African people? Well, we're here to discuss something very, very important. And so I welcome you to just stay back and just enjoy this conversation. Okay, just give me a moment. Just confirming a few things. All right. So if you're just joining us, we're having a very important conversation. If you're a speaker here, aspiring speaker, if you've ever wondered why don't I get invited to some stages, or there you have your eyes set on some stages to get on, then this session is so important to you, for you, right, in building your speaking career, speaking business. So the topic is global conferences need African speakers. Okay. And here's how they'll find you. So we're going to be sharing some insider secrets. Okay. Olayide is here for that purpose, to share those secrets. By the time I introduce her, then you know why I say she is the insider's insider for us. Okay. So we're going to also explore the best practices that global conference organizers use to identify industry shaping speakers. It's going to be a conversation on visibility and preparedness. If you're excited, I want to know in the comment section. I really want to know. And remember, I asked you earlier, Ron, what is that dream stage? What's your dream stage? What stage do you really want to be on? Do you aspire to be on? If you'd love to speak at a conference, a summit, a TEDx page, or a TEDx event, just share in the comment section. Okay, just drop it right there. I'm asking all of this for a reason. By the time we get to the end of this episode, you understand that it is possible to actually get on those stages if you would prepare yourself and position yourself better. So Olayide here would equip us, or just she'll share some secrets that would help you as a speaker. Okay. So right now, my guest tonight is a conference producer who has worked across some of the world's most prominent technology and industry gatherings. And you know, the thing is, I'll still give her the floor to introduce herself. She has done more than I'm even saying right now. Okay. She has sat on the other side of the speaker selection process, the side where names are considered, shortlisted, and chosen. She understands that she understands what global conference producers and conveners are looking for because she has been running that process herself. She is Nigerian. She is British, and she has worked in Dubai. I mean, Olayide, I'll give you the floor right now. Tell me maybe something that I'm missing out, but let our audience know who you are and why they should be listening to you in terms of what African speakers should be looking out for in terms of being prepared and visible.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Nana, and of course to the whole team at Heard in Africa. I really do appreciate being here today to share some insights that will be useful to potential and upcoming speakers, and even experienced speakers as well. They may find this useful. In terms of me and my bio, I would add to that of course, well, I'm actually based in Dubai. I'm currently on vacation in the UK. But apart from conference production, I write in my free time, some creative stuff. So I understand the implications of getting your voice heard, when it comes to why African speakers are important. I think there's a lot of research that shows that Africa essentially is the next big continent to watch, and we need first time movers. We need those people who will come and set the scene, who will speak well of the continent, who will give insights that maybe we can't necessarily find in a research paper. But essentially, it's about positioning oneself in time for these big moves that are about to take place. So I would say that African speakers are definitely being sought of because we need to hear from the continent, especially as we anticipate so much growth that's about to take place.
I mean, I love that you said that. And that's exactly why one of the reasons I started this conversation, speaker economy, which is what we do, which is what we do on a monthly basis, where we just bring in um, key players in the sector, in the speaking industry, be it the conveners, producers, to just understand how can African speakers maximize and get their voices heard. And so, Olaide, I have a very important question for you.
Mm,
Okay, so I asked our audience what's their dream stage. Now I'm going to ask you, if you weren't on the other side producing events, designing programs,
yeah.
bringing people together, choosing the speakers, what would be your dream stage?
I don't have a specific stage, but I know what I would want to talk about. Definitely something around storytelling,
Mm,
and how important stories, whether fiction, whether non-fiction, are when it comes to not just shaping minds, but also giving insight into how people may live or not live, and also opportunities for people to hear from other sides of the world through storytelling. So definitely something around writing I would want to speak on.
And I remember reading your bio, and you said something
Mm,
interesting that I'd never thought of, right? Being that, one of the things that we also do at Head in Africa is that we design. Hi, Olayide. Sorry about
yes, no
that.
problem.
Okay, yes. All right, I'm back now. So I said when I was reading your bio, there
Mm-hmm.
was something interesting you said about how you were able to connect your love for writing to the work you do in designing programs. And as someone who
Mm-hmm.
also works on conference programs, I found the way you were able to relate it to be very interesting. So can you say that again? How were you able to paint
Uh,
that picture? Yeah,
if I remember what I wrote, but essentially, essentially that events. It for me, I see an event as a way to tell a story. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. From an agenda point of view, how are we setting the scene? How do we then flesh out the story that we're trying to
yeah,
tell? And then how do we wrap it up in a way that the audience is able to take away um, valuable practical skills, or even valuable practical knowledge that they can then implement in their organizations. From an organization point of view, when it comes to events, I'm thinking about the event experience for both the speaker and the attendee. How
mm,
does registration run? How does access to the stage, what does it look like? How does the stage feel? How does the seating feel? Is there enough space between the seat ahead and things like that? So you're thinking about, essentially, it's called, in I believe in UX, they call it the customer journey. So you're
mhm,
looking at the customer journey both for the attendee and the speaker. Another aspect for the speaker's customer journey would include, how do you engage with them before they get to the event? Do they have all the
yeah.
right materials and such and such? So that's the story we're telling from beginning to end. Is this experience worth it? Is this experience valuable? And whether you're a speaker, whether you're an attendee, are you able to take something, at least one thing, out of this 3 day conference?
Yes.
Are you able to take one thing away from this that you can then apply to yourself or to your organization?
And fantastic. Thank you for that picture and the connection between and just the uh using the UX journey as an
Mm-hmm.
example. It just makes sense. So now
Mm-hmm.
we're going to dive in. Our topic is global conferences need African speakers. Like that's huge. The word need is not want. They
Yeah.
need, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so interesting because recently, I I get those emails. Can you connect us to African speakers, right? And so I think the best question to start this conversation, to answer this question, if African speakers are really needed by global conference producers,
Mm-hmm.
is when you are looking for a speaker, right? For
Can
hi,
you hear me? Can you
yes,
see
I'm
me?
back. I can
Okay.
see.
Yeah, it
Yes,
froze for a second.
yes, the network is a liar. Okay, so let's dive.
uh,
This is the main reason we are here. We're trying to
yeah.
understand. we're saying that global conferences need African speakers.
Mm,
Olaide, you've been involved in global conferences. I've been talking about it since you've been involved with, GITEX,
mhm,
Africa, Nigeria, and other global conferences. So
mhm,
now walk me through your process. What are you
mm,
actively looking for? What are you actively searching for? What are you
yeah.
following? What are you seeing in the next when you spot a speaker in and maybe in a few minutes, what makes you know that this is my speaker or this is not my speaker? Yeah.
Okay. I think, like I mentioned earlier, is understanding why African speakers are first of all needed. We need to be included in the conversations that are taking place around the world. I think it would do the world a disservice if our voices aren't heard. Now, in terms of what I'm looking for when I start my research process, a lot of reading, a lot of I would say filing down, filtering down, trying to understand what the concepts are that we're trying to achieve as an organization or as an event. And with that, I then read around the topic or read around our framework. So I'm looking for papers, anything on LinkedIn. If you post, if you put a post, if you're writing an article, that's what I'm looking for. And then I also, of course, depend on contacts. So people who know people who can recommend and vouch for the expertise of others. That's what I'm looking for. When it comes to deciding quickly what kind of speaker I need, or if I come across a profile, I look at these things: company, position, like activity on social media actually matters to me. Just to show that, whatever you're talking about will be timely. You're not just a one-off. Of course, there are those people who are extremely busy but also extremely, I don't know if this is the right way to phrase it, but extremely experts that you wouldn't necessarily see on social media like that. But you can still, there's enough evidence whether you type their name on Google and it comes up, in obviously not everyone is going to have such profiles for whatever reason. This is when we then, well, at least I heavily rely on the company profile and how it relates to the conference I'm producing. I try and see where they fit into the conversation, how they impact the ecosystem of whatever tech conversation we're having, and how it, and also actually to a lot of an extent, will this person and will this organization bring seats to, or bring delegates to come and sit down in the audience. It
Mm.
matters because people do want to hear from each other and they want to hear from industry experts, but also there's some industry experts that just by their name alone will, people will purchase a ticket and say, no, I must be there. So those are the few things that I consider. Of course, we then refine, we then allocate to sessions as well. So it depends on the sessions we have. I personally prefer to have my agenda ready and start thinking of what kind of profile I want in this session.
Yeah.
I do my best not to, for example, if I'm doing a session on finance, I don't want all bankers in this session. I want
Mm.
different aspects of the ecosystem of the food chain to be involved in the
Yeah.
conversation. So I look for those people that can then, add to the conversation, give their insights from their part of the sector or industry, and then build on that. So I think a lot of the visibility and the preparedness for a potential speaker actually relies on the conference producer, because it's what
Mm.
we're looking for that we then dig for. There are millions of speakers, but if I don't need the speaker, I'm not going to reach out to them. But for the ones that I do need, I know exactly what I'm looking for.
And so the thing now is, just
Hmm.
from what you said, which is so good, is how do you know someone who is a speaker on LinkedIn?
Hmm.
Like, 'cause anyone can have a page on LinkedIn and so optimized. How do you know that this is the right speaker for you?
Hmm.
And again, what if, like you just said, there's this thought leader somewhere, but never, I mean, there's no way to find them.
Hmm.
I mean, those are like two situations right now. You have those who have a great LinkedIn profile, how do you know they're the speakers? So I just want to understand how you select your speakers if LinkedIn is the platform.
I w-
Or is there an assumption that everyone on LinkedIn is a
oh
speaker?
no, no, no. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not a speaker like that, right? But the way I think it's based on the criteria that I'm aware of as well. You know, obviously within each organization, everybody has KPIs and whatnot to adhere to. So that's also taken into consideration. But I think for me, it's activity that gets me, because then I have
Mm,
more to read up about the person and what they're talking about, especially if it then, I would say, funds my research or informs my agenda. So, for example, I can come across a speaker who is in agriculture, for example, and they're
mhm,
posting a lot and talking a lot about what's happening in the continent. Maybe I come across something I haven't considered, but sits perfectly within maybe one of the sessions I have. Those are the things I'm looking for. Where do the puzzle pieces fit? So, does this speaker have enough to speak in this session? Then
mhm,
I might reach out. And fair enough, not everyone is a speaker. Some people don't know they're speakers until you ask them to speak. So
mm,
it just takes a bit of courage from me as a conference producer to then reach out and say, I've come across your profile. It seems interesting for this and this reason. This is the event I'm working on. We would love to have a conversation to discuss how we can bring you on to the event. And if they feel it's something that also aligns with their business goals and their personal goals or whatever else, then they may or may not choose to speak, which is fine. And that's one thing I always tell myself, don't take it personal when a speaker declines. But also, I forgot to mention that one aspect that I also consider, because the events we work on are not just African speakers, we do go global, is, does this organization or does this speaker have work or research or any affiliation with the continent that will be valuable? And I think the same
mhm,
question is applicable for those within the continent. It's like, okay, what are they doing, first of all, to influence the industry? And what could they be doing, or what are they doing globally that influences the industry that they're in? That also makes a big difference.
mm. Wow. So, I mean, a lot of what you said right now has to do with their
Mm-hmm,
positioning, what they I mean, being thought
mm-hmm,
leaders, right, helps you with the selection process. So I believe now that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're going through LinkedIn or any platform or, doing your research, the first thing you click on is, let's say LinkedIn, for
mm-hmm,
example, is the activity.
mm-hmm.
Like you just read up
On the
your,
post.
your that's the first
Mm-hmm.
thing you look at, right?
And then
Okay.
also, just to add to that, when I do click on posts, when I do my research and everything else, it also leads me to other speakers that I may not know, because the industry knows the industry. I am a conference producer first before I'm a tech anything or before I'm a finance. I don't work in those sectors. So if I go to someone
Mhm.
who does and they've mentioned someone else who works in their sector, I click, I read, are they suitable? Do they fit the profiles we're looking for, etc., etc. I just want to also quickly add that there are numerous ways in which conference producers and conference managers work when it comes to selecting speakers. There's, for some, it's through paper selection. Maybe there's a publication or such, and they want you to present your paper. That is a whole different process in itself that requires a committee, industry experts. They review, they rate, and then you get your opportunities there. I will say this as well for anyone who's listening, is to know what kind of speaker you want to be. Are you Do you want to position yourself as a research industry expert? Then that means you might be into writing a lot of papers in which you then present them. So you look for events that require that. Are you trying to influence the industry that you're in by being on stage, by contributing to certain conversations? Then you look for,
Mhm.
events that, like, I work on, and of course we do have our speaker forum and such. But again, you can be both. But it's also understanding where the industry requires you and how that then helps boost your visibility. So if you haven't already started speaking and you want to find ways to speak, start small, because it may take some time,
Yeah,
but start
yeah.
small. But make sure that whatever you're doing that small is impactful and valuable and easy to find. So talk about what you do.
Yeah, and well
Mm,
covered, right? And I mean, just talking about the process, because I know how it can be for me
mm.
as well when I'm looking for speakers. So, Olayide, do you think from your lens right now that the search for speakers can be a very tedious one, tough? Like, just is it the part of the job that you enjoy the most or the least? Be honest,
Uh,
I will not judge you.
it's the part that never ends. Whether I enjoy it most or least is irrelevant. It never ends. We're always looking for speakers. I think, like I mentioned earlier, that a lot of it actually depends on what the conversation is for the stage. So, for example, there's a lot of conferences around AI. One of the things I have personally struggled with is finding enough speakers like who really know the stuff, who know the research, who know the tech, who know, and of course with AI in Africa, for example, it's still developing. It's still, all these policies are coming into play, and the question is, who are the experts? Who are really the experts? Who are really the people who are pushing the needle in the industry? And I'm not saying that it's impossible to find, and I'm not saying that they're hard
Yeah,
to find.
of course.
But it essentially what I'm saying is that depending on what I'm looking for right now, there's a whole lot of AI conversations, finding these AI people, who will add value, who will add not even value as well, not just value, but also shape how the industry is built within Africa. That's what I'm looking for. So yeah, so it's an interesting element of my job, but it's
Mm,
one that never ends, even up until the day of I can be, getting speakers and such. Of course, that's not the norm, but these things
yeah,
happen.
it do
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
And again, positioning is, oh, okay, does this person's profile speak to what we're trying to achieve here? Yes or no? Are they a decision maker enough to actually change something within the four walls of this auditorium? I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
So talking about positioning right now, so imagine you find this speaker that is so good. Maybe it was a
Mm.
referral and somehow you've seen his or her papers, but they are not positioned online. No one knows them. When you put them up on a flyer, nobody knows. What would you do? Would you still pick them? Would you still invite them to
I
speak?
mean,
How have you navigated that?
there have been moments where I've, gone ahead to invite people to speak. This is when I do a discovery call. So I get on a call with them, try and understand where they are, what they do, why they're doing it. Do they even enjoy? You can tell when someone enjoys what they do by the way they speak about
Mm,
it. Are they eloquent? Because it matters. You need to be able to hold a conversation and be able to exchange on stage. And then I guess it's just finding where their expertise lie. If it works out, then we can proceed. And also, if I have enough information to write a short bio about them, to say this is who they are, this is how they're impacting the industry. Essentially, even though they're not visible the way we're used to, this is someone to watch, and it will be good for us to have
yeah.
them, at the show or on stage and such. So those are ways to go around it. But of course, I think also to remember that it, the entire process is not solely down to one person. It's actually a whole team and everything behind it. So you have to be prepared to then, present your speakers in a way that they come at, essentially you're putting that message across that this is a person that you want to have on stage,
Yeah.
because this is what's going to then happen should they come to the event.
Yeah, so and I want to touch on what you've just said now. You are not the only decision
Mm,
maker. There are people who you still have to pitch these speakers
mm,
to. And so that's something I always say. Position yourself so well, be so visible that when you are mentioned in a room when you're not there. Your profile, your who you are online, your digital footprints speak for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? It helps the event producer defend you in that room. So just talking about the process of selecting speakers, it reminds me of how really that it can be
Mm-hmm.
tough. And that was one of the reasons we started Heard in Africa. I was just like, you know what, imagine if I could just build a platform where we just have all these speakers to just make it easy for
To
every other person to
find,
just
yeah.
find speakers. Just you want AI, right? We just
Mm-hmm.
type in AI, right? If you want in healthcare or whatever, you just type in there, you find
Mm-hmm.
the speakers you want. So it's really good to hear that, hey, event producers, we are not alone, that
Mm-hmm.
you're not the first person saying that finding speakers can be
Mm-hmm.
tough, right? Because LinkedIn we are hundreds of thousands of people
People,
on
yeah.
LinkedIn for different purposes, right? So okay, so now I have another
Mm.
question for you. And I think you've answered this, right? What does it look like when a speaker is well positioned? What does their presence, their profile, their materials, their papers, how they talk about their own
Mm-hmm.
work? How does it communicate? How does that help
Mm-hmm.
you, right? I think you've also said it. You've said that it helps you in just pitching them to those you
Mm-hmm.
answer to, right? And I think you mentioned something about a
Mm-hmm.
criteria. So for every speaker, there's a criteria. You didn't create
Mm-hmm.
those criteria,
Mm-hmm.
right? Was it created by who are those? The committee? Who are those behind you? Because I need to know, is it like your
Yeah.
bosses, or who are those that we're up
Yeah.
against when it comes to trying to make sure that we're the right people to speak?
I think it's more so understanding what the event requires. So, for example, some websites will state exactly what they're looking for, why they're looking for it,
Mm-hmm.
and such. In my case, I've had the experience of working with the committee who sets the criteria for what they're looking for and the rating process. Um, Currently, of course, with the way we do events, we know what we're looking for already because of the standard that has been set at a global scale across all the portfolio events that we do. So it's not to say that it's maybe a written rule, but we did this last year. This is the standard plus more. We did this 2 years
Yeah.
ago. This is the standard plus extra. So when you've done one event and you know what is required and it's visible, it's public, and then you can say, okay, yeah, we know what we're looking for. We can, it's easier to then filter down. So I won't go into too much detail about what each point is, but again, if there was no criteria written down, essentially just go on the website, look at the speakers we have. That's the standard. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want to keep up with, but exceed where possible.
Where possible. All right. So if a speaker could only change one
Oh,
thing about how they present themselves,
mm,
one thing that would make a producer's job, your job, easier, what would it be? When you answer, I'll answer as
okay.
well. Okay.
Maybe one or
Mm-hmm.
two things, maybe. Okay, and I just want to preface this that LinkedIn is not the only resource that we look for speakers. We have to read as conference producers. I quickly skim through articles. So if you're a potential speaker, is there anything written, or even if it's not written, audibly that we can find, that we can hear or read, that you've contributed to or you've spoken about? Amazing. Even more amazing is if you have a website or a blog or something that really speaks to your expertise, your speaking experience, and also how to contact you. That's also one thing that can be a bit difficult if we don't already have your contact, finding your contact. Yeah, so I'm a big believer in having some level of digital footprint where someone can click on your personal page or your website or something like that, where they can find out more about you. Because also remember, we are skimming through multiple pages and pages and pages of potential speaker profiles, bios, emails. We get messages as well.
Email. Yeah.
We get messages as well on LinkedIn. Different partners reach out to us proposing speakers, and every single speaker has to be essentially vetted through our criteria process.
Mhm.
It's a lot, but it's what a good conversation requires. Yeah.
And so I love it so much because um, I think for every speaker, it's important they know that sending out the email, just like you said, that even when you invite some speakers and they say no, it's not
Mm-hmm.
personal.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, when you reach out, you pitch yourself and you don't get the response you would like, it's not
Mm-hmm.
personal. But I think it's also shows you that you have more work to do in positioning yourself to be someone that is needed on a
Mm-hmm.
stage. You position yourself in such a way that once you send that email, Olayide is
Yeah.
like, yep. I'm like, oh my God, yes,
Mm-hmm.
we need to have you. Oh my gosh, we're so thankful that you came on stage. So it means, just like you've pointed out right now, a website, your
Mm-hmm.
articles, how can we reach you? You really need to invest in your digital assets. Like you
Mm-hmm.
need to be out there visibly for us to know that you are the experts we need on our
Yeah.
stage. So did you say the second one?
I think it was a mix of both,
Okay.
being visible, the digital footprint, but also where that digital footprint leads is maybe a personal website, one pager. We can just quickly check what you have, understand what you do, and then make our decision from there.
I will say the same too. I will say that what makes my work easier for me is if I see that you have
Mm-hmm.
invested in in the
Industry.
industry, in
Mm-hmm.
yourself as well. It just shows that, oh yeah, you're taking this seriously. You're ready to like because it's not easy spend building a digital
Mm-hmm.
presence. It's expensive, but you are contributing, spending on yourself to just make sure that you're building out the industry to be better.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it easier for me to select you because I feel like, oh, you're someone that people actually listen to as
Yeah.
well. And again, if I see you on other stages too, I'm like, okay, wow, it means you can actually speak too. So I can trust you on our
Mm-hmm.
stage because if you do a bad job, I look bad. If you do a good job, I look
Yeah.
good, you look good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Olaide, I learned something from you on our first
Oh,
call
you did?
together, and that was yeah, it was a flyer test. I don't know if you remember talking about the flyer test. What you talked about how you imagine who the speaker
Mm-hmm.
is, putting them on a flyer.
Mm-hmm.
What would the audience, what would your audience's reaction be? Would they want to get a ticket
Mm-hmm.
because they see the speaker's um face on the flyer? So can you talk about that just for a minute? Like, what is the flyer test, and how have you used
Mm-hmm.
this uh, while planning or producing an
Yeah,
event?
so essentially with the flyers or any kind of publications we do, or even from my previous organization where I used to work,
Mhm.
essentially what you want to do, you want to put the names that will attract the audience. So, and I think I've alluded to this, who the person is. Yeah, I mean, some people are so recognizable, all you need is their face. You don't really need to put their name and everything else. And I understand that maybe even some people on this call are still building that credibility, which is fine. But essentially, when I have the speaker in mind, I'm asking myself, okay, if we put this person on the flyer or whatever, would the audience understand exactly who this person is and why they've been allotted to this conversation? Would it make them want to hear from them? Are we positioning them as an industry expert so other industry counterparts can come and learn and discuss? Or are we positioning this person as someone who is essentially changing the industry that everyone needs to come and listen to ensure that they're doing the right thing in their own organizations? It really, I want to say, yes, it really matters how the speaker, I don't want to say looks because that's not what I'm aiming for, but essentially everything that the speaker claims to have, whether it's position,
Yes.
whether it's organization, whether it's experience, I need to be able to say and put that in very few short sentences to say, this is the person, this is what they do, this is how they've done it, this is why you need to be there to hear from them. So yeah, so with the flyer, with any kind of publication we're thinking of, it's like, are these the top 10, are these the top 20 speakers that if someone sees their face on our website or whatever, they are immediately booking a ticket to come and listen because these are the people they want to learn from. So again, I think I'll touch on the fact that as a speaker, you want to assess your motivation for why you want to speak in the first place. It's very easy to know when someone wants to speak for their self, as opposed to helping the industry grow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very very
Yeah.
easy to pinpoint that.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
want to position yourself as a valuable person, and also to the point I would say is like, if you don't have me, the conversation cannot be done. We need you need me to be on this panel, kind of thing. I'm not
Yes.
saying anyone should email me begging or or anything like
Yes.
that, but essentially I need to be in a position where I have to say, okay, this is a very good profile to have, and therefore we need to consider having them and find ways of making that work.
Yes. And I mean, I love that you said that because, okay, so what
Mm,
if a speaker pitches himself to
mm,
you or someone refers the speaker to you and you go on their profile, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you can see the pictures you see are like phone pictures, like really poor quality pictures. You know, I'm asking these specific
hmm.
questions because I think people don't understand,
It
or some speakers
matters.
don't understand that it
Hmm.
matters. Like how curated your page
Correct.
looks, the quality of your picture. I promise you, because it's
Hmm.
perception,
Hmm.
and there is a committee. There are people you have to pitch to, and no matter how much authority you think I have in selecting you as a speaker, there are people that I still have to
Hmm.
report to and say, "Hey, this is who I'm pitching," and they'll go and check, and they'll be like, "Nope, does not look like they'll do a good job," even if they'll do a good job. Yeah, what
I
do you
think
think?
I would say this: in order, if you claim to be an expert, you have to be excellent, and your excellence has to travel and extend to everything you do. So if you're an expert in speaking on, I don't know, money, be excellent in that. Let your excellence show by the way you post, by the assets you use when you're posting, by the way you show up online. Is it consistent? For example, you mentioned the pictures and stuff. It matters. It really does matter. And in some cases, it shouldn't, but it has to, because you also have to realize and also understand that the events that you want to speak on, do I fit the brand? You know, do we gel together? And if you feel like you don't and you want to work on it, develop these skills, ensure that you're ready to speak on these stages. And I think it was good the way you asked the question at the beginning, like, what stage do you see yourself at? Have a look at the people who've spoken on these stages in the past. Look at their profiles, look at their websites, look at the things they've published.
Yeah,
With that, then you're able to say, okay, maybe I can take a few hints here and there, or a few pointers here and there from this speaker and apply it to myself. No one does anything by themselves. Everyone is learning, on this journey, whether it's conference production, whether it's speaking. No one ever comes to the end of learning. So if you've been speaking for 100 years and you want to speak for another 50, there's still a lot of work to do. And the same for anyone who's just started out. Look at those people you admire, because obviously I don't want to assume that someone just woke up one day and said, I'm going to speak. Maybe you heard someone who was speaking about something you enjoy and you were inspired to then, follow suit. What did they do to get to this point? And I think those are some not so, how would I, it's not tangible information that you then think, okay, this is what I need to do. But essentially, these are the things that make up a good speaker. Everything you've done to become this person is what makes you a great speaker. Not, I've seen your profile today and I'm going to invite you. There's a lot of work that has to go behind propelling you for these opportunities.
yeah. And I had something to say. I think you said something right there, and I want anyone listening right now, if you have your notes or in the comment section, just tell me why. Why did you start speaking? Why are you interested in speaking? Olaide said something very powerful, and she said that speaking is giving. Most people think that speaking is all about them, but no, we can smell it from 6 feet
Afar.
when we it's like when we know it's just about
Mm,
you, when it's just about me and the reels and the Instagram and the what it will make me look like. We know when it's you giving value, when you want to give back. And so Olaide, this question now is tied to
mhm.
this. Who is that speaker? Give me an example. A speaker that just came correct. What did
Oh,
they do? From the start to the end. You don't need to mention any name, but you can think about that speaker. Put that picture in your mind and just describe what they did or how you found them, what it was like, the yes you got from whoever backs you, and then the process to the end.
I'm trying to think from the top of my head. This is what happens when you're on vacation and you kind of forget about work. But from the top of my head, I think I okay, I will summarize from a few people. Um, Accessibility is the currency for a conference producer. Are you accessible? And I understand everyone is busy, you know. So for us as conference producers, when we do reach out, and especially when it's a first intro email or connect or whatever, it really does feel like a win. Politeness and kindness goes a long way, especially, I won't say especially, I would say, regardless of your position, whether you're the top, whether you're the beginner, you're the entry level, kindness goes a long way because it makes your work fun. You know, it really
Yeah.
does. Kind people on stage, amazing. You know, so when you have them in your corner, when you have them on your agenda and things like that, it really gives you a lot of confidence that I can rely on this person to be professional because they've been kind to me in their approach or in their response and such.
Mhm.
Um, and then also, again, maybe this is my personal thing is okay, when I reach out to potential speakers, I like to give enough information for them to say yes or no, or let's have a call. In the same way, any potential speaker that reaches out to me, I need to read that they understand the work we do, and they've already seen where they can fit in the conversation, not just I'm a this, that, and the other expert. I spoke here, I spoke there. I'm happy for you, but have you gone to our website to actually see if we will, connect and work together? So, um, accessibility. Obviously, I'm not saying put your email everywhere and let everybody email you, but the level of accessibility helps. Kindness, politeness, oftentimes indicates professionalism, which is what every conference producer requires because we do a lot of work. We're managing minimum 100 speakers, and that might just be in one day, you know. And then the other, I would say, what was the last one I said? I said accessibility, kindness, politeness, and um, yeah,
Yes.
explaining and identifying your fit within
Yes.
the event. It helps
Yes.
us
Yeah.
because then
Yeah.
I don't want to have to guess where you fit. Tell me
Yes,
where you
and
fit.
I love that you said that. I love it. And I think that this is a tip
Mm,
for anybody, right? So there are times when we are also, Head in Africa is designing a conference program or producing a conference, and we get this email, and you're pitching something entirely out of, like, it's not even connected to the
mm,
theme. It's just almost like we should change up our agenda to fit your
mm-hmm,
conversation. How about um how about fitting your topic or creating a topic, or just making sure that your topic is a perfect
mm-hmm,
fit for the
mm-hmm.
conversations we're having. It's relevant. I think the keyword is it's relevant to the conversations that we are having within the theme of that
Mm-hmm.
event. So that's what you're saying, right,
Yes, yes,
Lady?
I am. And now that I've explained that, I actually have a speaker in mind who did exactly that, and the
Hmm.
profile amazing, position amazing, the conversation amazing. I said we need this person right now.
Okay, wait. When you say profile, no, no, like, 'cause some people are like, okay, what's
So for
profile amazing? Like, I know you
okay,
said too much.
so for example, and this person came through our speaker form. I didn't go and look for them. They didn't reach out to me on LinkedIn. Um, Position was top tier, a decision maker at decision making level, what we're looking for. Where they were coming from and what they wanted to speak about was so relevant. We had a session on we in fact we had space on the agenda. We shifted things so that this
Yeah, so you
conversation
were able to create something
yeah,
for them. Like, it was
yeah,
perfect.
you know,
Yeah.
so and also it I could, I say by the grace of God, I was able to also identify other opportunities for the organization because of this speaker. Potentially, if they come on board again, this is what it could look like. So I would also add, for conference producers, there's a level of commercial acumen that we have to have.
Mhm.
So that matters. Can I pitch the speaker from a commercial point of view? So the commercial point of view might be partnerships in the future, or it even might be, like I mentioned, delegates paying for tickets to come and see the speaker. So yes, we have to think that way, not just this is such a great speaker, they have to be there. Where's the commercial value, or where's the commercial implication, should I say, with this speaker attending or participating at the show?
Wow. So I mean, I can't imagine how excited you were when you got that response or
Mm-hmm.
the application through the form. I'm sure you were like, oh my gosh, check,
Everything.
I have my speaker. Okay. All right, now let's okay. All right. Okay, so I think we have one question
Mm-hmm.
here, but I think maybe when I get to my final
Okay.
question, then we can get to that. But Hi, Olayide. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Uh,
I can't hear you yet.
can you hear me?
Not yet.
You can't hear. Can you hear me? Hi. Can you hear me? Oh, you can't hear me. Are you sure? Because I'm not muted.
I can tell what you're saying, but I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh wow. Um. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, that's very strange because can you hear me? Hello? 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 Hmm. Hi. Hi, Olayide. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? My mic actually reads that you can hear me. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you speak?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear
You can
you.
hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I have no idea why I can't hear you.
Hmm. I'm not sure. Because my mic is actually working. It's showing that I'm not sure.
Okay, it's come back.
Okay, it's come back.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Let
Okay,
me, yeah,
perfect.
I can hear you wonderfully.
Okay, thank you. I thank you. That's
Technology.
technology. I'm just like, no
No
way.
way.
I'm enjoying the conversation.
We're
I'm really
having this
enjoying.
conversation.
Yes, yes. Okay, so Olayde, I think so that we have enough time for the questions.
Mm-hmm.
You sit in a very unique position as a Nigerian, a British, working in Dubai. You
Mm-hmm.
know, look at your CV, like British, Nigerian,
Best of
Dubai,
all worlds, I guess.
as in right. So for an African speaker now, you live between the continents in
Mm,
Africa and the global stage in a way that very few people actually do. So
mm-hmm.
what does that position show you that people on either
Mm,
side cannot see? What do you notice that about African speakers? What do you notice about African speakers that the global conferences they want to reach do not fully understand? And
mm-hmm.
what do you notice about what global conferences need that African speakers do not fully know yet? That's a tough question. I had to put it out
It is a
because I
tough
remember
question.
just thinking through. Yeah.
I think the way I would answer it is that, and I think I mentioned this to you before, is that Africa is not lacking in speakers. It's not lacking in storytellers. It's not lacking in industry shapers. It's not we're a storytelling community anyway. We talk a lot, right? So I think what I find, I think, and I'll talk for myself as a conference producer, is that working on an African or Nigerian or anything, where Africa is fully represented, is I am a big believer in pushing the positive. What's the original phrase? Essentially, even with Africa's challenges, where do we find the opportunities? And how do we use language to reshape how people think of Africa? So the reason why I'm mentioning this, because it applies to how speakers speak about Africa. Oftentimes, and I learned this while, working on an event, I had a session in my agenda based on research, I said, this is how it is in Africa. This is what we're going to talk about. And I said, hang on a minute, let me have a conversation with someone in the industry who can speak on it. And because of that conversation, I had to rewrite the session because I understood the issue from someone who's lived through it, who's experienced it, who understands it in ways that I don't when I'm sitting on the outside. So where my challenge or where my opportunity lies is that I have to find the balance between being an outsider trying to learn how to shape what's happening inside. So it helps when I have speakers who are willing to give that information or willing to share that information in ways that doesn't paint the continent as all bad, but instead changes challenges to opportunities. That's my biggest thing. So even in the way I write agendas, that's one thing I try and do. Emphasize positive reinforcement is the word or the phrase I was looking for. So that's my personal take on how I also, I guess, appeal to speakers is, are you willing to shape the narrative? Because if you go to Europe, what are you telling people about Africa? If they come to Africa, whichever country, what are they hearing from the speakers about the continent? And if all they hear is, it's difficult, it's this, that's what they're going to come with. Those are the solutions they're going to then build and say, take it. But really, it's more than that. There's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of culture to consider, there's a lot of relatability to apply. But most importantly, again, from my perspective, is this positive reinforcement concept so that people don't just assume that everything in Africa is just needy, needy, needy. And I don't think that's the case at all. So yeah, that's the challenge, but also something for speakers to be aware of, because that's what's going to shape the next few years of the conversations we have on stage.
And I really love what you said now because it reminds me again of why I started Heard in Africa. I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, Africans, we have a unique way of solving problems. We have a unique way of seeing life. We are so innovative. We
Mm-hmm.
should be able to be on different stages, speaking from our perspective. And that's why it's
Mm-hmm.
called Heard in Africa, because I was like, our thoughts, who we are, should be represented on stages. And I like
Of
what you
course.
said. We should be the ones. What do people who come to the continent here? How
Mm-hmm.
are we using our voice to amplify our work and also shape what people see as Africa or being African?
Correct.
And
Correct.
so I love that so much. So I'm going to end with this question.
Mm-hmm.
What does an African speaker bring to a global stage? And I think you've answered it, that a conference producer genuinely values. Not what they
Mm-hmm.
could bring if they were better prepared, what they already bring.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, so sorry. I
That's
hope
okay.
you can hear the background.
It's fine. It's okay.
Don't worry. Okay, so I'll start again. What does an
Mm-hmm.
African speaker bring to a global stage that a conference producer genuinely values? Not what
Mm-hmm.
they could bring if they were better prepared, what they already bring right now
Mm-hmm.
that global stages are actively looking for, that global stages must have. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowing you right now to make the case for African speakers from a producer's perspective. And I think you've already said something
Yeah.
about positive reinforcement. So you
Yeah.
can just complete that.
And I think also to that, I would say be an African expert, but also be an industry expert.
Hmm.
Understand what's happening around the world that maybe could be applied to Africa, or even how African can solve or better solve the equation that they're trying to figure out. I think that's where the value is. Can you actually contribute to the conversation without just relying on African research or examples? Can you then connect the dots between continents and say, for example, this happened in America, blah blah blah, we can apply that here. However, from the African perspective, this is what it looks like. And I think that's what makes an interesting conversation, is when you can take examples from everywhere and still build the conversation around Africa and elevate whether your country, your continent, and your industry, in that way. But yeah, I would say that would be my answer for that question. I think. I hope I answered it well.
Yeah, and I think that really that's a value that we bring, our
Mhm,
perspective, right? And
mhm,
also excellence.
mhm,
Speaking is not about you. So
mhm,
it's about what can you give, how can you contribute to the conversation, to the ecosystem, to the minds of people, because what you say can shape minds,
mhm,
policies. Being a speaker is no joke. And that's why there's a vetting process. That's why there's a criteria. That's why there are people, a bunch of people who are behind the scenes trying to make sure
mhm,
you're the right speaker to come on. It's beyond just the aesthetics, because you can be rightly positioned online,
mhm.
but if you come on stage and there's nothing, I mean, that might not, you might not get another invitation,
Yeah,
right? So be so good that Olayide can be like, hey, there's another one. Can
coming
you, I
up.
just recommend you somewhere else? You get me?
Yeah.
So I think that if there's anything that I've gotten from this conversation is our positioning is so important
Mhm,
as a speaker. You can't
mhm,
take it for granted. You can't leave it for to you can't leave it to chance. You have to be positioned, websites, articles, LinkedIn, whether you want to join a speaker bureau,
mhm,
just be online. Let's know the work you're doing, and then be
mhm,
kind, be polite.
mhm,
Um, Design topics that are relevant, that are needed right now.
mhm.
The world is changing so fast, and so maybe topics that you could speak on last 4 years. Things have changed now. Like, how can you
Correct.
evolve in such a way that you are needed in the rooms right now?
Mhm.
So I think relevance is so important.
Yep.
You want to be invited, be relevant. So you start
Mhm,
thinking to yourself, what are some conversations that people should start having right now, and how
yeah.
can you plan towards just building your expertise in that area, right? So
Mhm,
yeah, and then again, being an African, being sharing, making sure that your perspectives represent us as a whole, not as beggars, but as people who
mhm.
bring value, because really we are brilliant,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, Olaide, thank you so much.
You're
I
most
know that
welcome.
my team member had shared some questions that we got. Hold on.
Mhm.
So, someone said, "What are some common mistakes African speakers make that reduce their chances of being invited to speak at major conferences?"
Mm.
Hmm.
That's a good question because I wouldn't say I identify mistakes. I'm not looking for mistakes.
Hmm.
Whether African, European, or elsewhere, I'm not
Mhm.
looking for mistakes. My job isn't that. My job is to look for value.
Find the yeah,
Yeah,
find the right speaker. Like,
yeah. if
you
if you
know,
and I think maybe to answer that question without answering that question, I would say for anyone who wants to be a speaker, see speaking as a responsibility. If you're responsibility for your voice, if you're responsible for the information you're putting out there, look at it from the grand scheme of things, but also cut down that grand scheme into small chunks and ask yourself, am I being responsible when I'm sharing information online? Does it position me as the expert that I hope to be or I am becoming? And when you do get to that stage and when you do get to speak on the global podium and things like that, understand that it's a responsibility before it's even part of your brand, before it's even part of whatever. Because when you're responsible for what you say, you're careful with what you say, and then you're able to then identify which events align with your responsibility. So you're not just speaking everywhere, anywhere for the sake of, but you're strategic about it. So if that's the mistake question answered, I think that's my answer for the mistake question. Yeah.
I love that you said that. Not speaking everywhere. If you
Mm-hmm.
speak to everybody, then there's a problem. You need to know who you're speaking to, the problem you're solving, what your
Mm-hmm.
solution is, who your audience is. Like, speaking is that serious. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
picking up a mic and just, hey, anywhere you're invited to, you just
You
change yourself.
go.
If it's time for medicine, you go and you're a doctor that day. If it's time for engineering, you're the engineer
Uh,
for the
I
day.
think one of the questions sometimes I ask is like, at what point does this person get any work done if
Yeah.
they're always speaking? Because you still have a job, you still have a responsibility to your organization as well.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
still have to do what you said. If you're
Mhm.
going to come on stage and talk about digital transformation, I need to be
Yeah.
able to see that in your organization if you're
Yeah.
responsible for it. So
Exactly.
yeah, so it takes a lot of wisdom to identify these things. But yeah,
So,
speaking is a
so
responsibility.
yeah, and you've said something now that I want to just talk about a bit. We're over time,
Mm-hmm.
and that is so there's some conferences. I think again, as speakers, you need to know what sort of speakers some events want. Some events
Mm-hmm.
want motivational speakers, speakers
Correct.
that transform the mind, on resilience, on encouragement, on team
Mm-hmm.
building. The conferences that you produce, what do you lean towards? Thought leadership, more thought leadership than motivation and
Oh
resilience.
yeah, yeah. We're not. Was it aspire to perspire type? No, no,
Mhm,
we're not that.
mhm,
We are very much changing industry for the better because of the conversations that have happened on this stage. Yeah,
mhm,
someone might be motivated to do the right thing from the conversation, but it needs to be research backed. There needs to be evidence for what people are saying on stage. So yeah, it's very much thought leadership, industry shaping conversations.
mm. I love that you said that. So that's something key as well as a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know who do you want to be as a speaker. Do you want to lean towards the motivational speaking, or do you want
Mm-hmm.
to lean towards thought leadership? And I'll give an example. Let's say a Vusi. I think Vusi can be motivational, but he can
Mm-hmm.
also be
Speak on
industry,
business.
yeah, industry relevant too when he's
Mm-hmm.
talking about strategy, business strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
as a speaker, that's the thought process. Because for me, I always say that speaking is a business. Like the moment you start seeing speaking as a business, you'd understand that you curate your presence online. You create
Mm-hmm.
everything online, which makes it easy to become findable by
Mm-hmm.
conference producers like Olayide, right? Okay, we're going to close with this final question because I
Cool.
really liked it. Olayide, I think it's going to, I hope it doesn't put you under any pressure, but it
Oh,
says, um, if someone wants to position themselves for global speaking opportunities in the next 6 to 12 months, what
mm,
practical steps should they start taking today? Give us something.
wow.
Yes.
If someone wants to do this within the next 6 to 12 months, um, start a blog or something that
Mm,
we can read. I think I've mentioned this at the
mm,
beginning. Are there events taking place locally that you
mm,
can position yourself in to speak
mm,
at?
mm,
um, and also understand, whoever asked this question, it's not a case of speaking every month within the next 6 to 12 months. I don't think that's what you're asking, but it's about preparing yourself for the opportunity within the
mm,
next six to, so
mm,
maybe it means having conversations the same way as a conference producer. I can reach out to people, maybe reach out to a few, maybe three speakers, three industry experts that you're fond of, if they're willing to give time and if you're willing to show value and understand how you want to be positioned as a speaker, maybe, reach out to them, ask them one or two questions about speaking opportunities and how to be prepared. And of course, if you can, maybe, I think you mentioned the Speaker Bureau,
mhm,
organizations like Heard in Africa, you want to join, you want to, become part of their roster list,
mhm.
do these things so that by the time the opportunity is ready for you, you're prepared. Practice speaking, because boring speakers, as much as they are the experts, if they are boring, it is just flat, in the room.
No
Think
more.
about how you want to, yeah, think about how you want to be heard and how you want to be perceived, and essentially, how do you want people to feel the moment you stop speaking on this stage? So practice speaking, understand your industry well enough that if someone was to call you within 6 to 12 months, you can answer every question they have about the industry. Um, yeah, and also just, I say network. Networking is not even my favorite thing to do, but networking is important. Be within the reach of these opportunities, whether it's through events. Go to events, see how they feel. If you're not already going to events, yeah, go to events as well. So I hope those are some practical tips, and they come in handy. And hopefully, within the next 6 to 12 months, there's at least one speaking opportunity coming your way.
Yes. Thank you so much, Olayide. This was so
You're
good.
most welcome.
Thank you for sharing tonight.
Yeah.
And what you have shared will go on record. I mean, literally, because we are preparing this Africa Economy Africa Impact Report because I'm
Nice.
trying to solve the problems that trying to close the gaps that I've seen. And, they always say that it always starts with you. So we are
Hmm.
compiling this report from every conversation to give it to make sure that African speakers are well equipped because like I said, our perspectives, our solutions need to be heard, and we need to know how to arm ourselves and position ourselves and just know what are people saying, or how what do people want from us to make sure that our voices are heard on global stages. So I'm really excited. This would be a great publication that would require a lot of work, but we're proud of it. And so your voice will be part of this. We'll have like an Olayide section. Ooh, I can already
Nice.
see it. And grateful for you showing up during your vacation means
You're
so much, and also
welcome.
the level of honesty.
Mm.
And so, to everyone that has joined us tonight, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your questions. Thank you for the stages that you've named you want to be on. I hope you get to be on those stages. Thank you. I know that you've heard about the flyer test, positioning yourself online, making sure that you're visible on on many platforms, right? And thank you. Use this information and come back for next month's edition, and follow her in Africa. Follow Olayide on LinkedIn, Olayide Babayemi,
Yeah.
and just stay tuned. And the next episode for July is coming up, and you'll see the flyer. And have a great, 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 great evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a
Enjoy the
pleasure.
heat wave.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.